Last night, you heard it again. Not loud, not sudden, just there. A faint flutter somewhere outside your window. Then silence. You waited. Nothing. And just when your mind started to drift again, it came back. Slightly different this time. Closer. Like something was circling, but never fully revealing itself. At first, it didn't feel important. But the more you listened, the harder it became to ignore. Because something about it didn't follow a pattern you could understand. Here's what most people don't realize. When a bird keeps moving around your space at night without settling, without making clear, consistent sounds, it's not the movement itself that stays with you. It's the unpredictability of it. And this is where it gets interesting. The first thing you notice is the shifting position. One moment it sounds like it's near your window. The next, slightly farther away. Then above. Then somewhere you can't quite place. Your brain is trying to map it, to locate it, but it keeps changing. Psychologically, humans rely on spatial awareness to feel in control. When something keeps moving unpredictably within your perceived space, your mind struggles to lock onto it, and that creates a subtle tension. Not fear, but uncertainty. But that's not the real reason it stays with you. The second thing is the lack of a clear pattern. If the bird moved in a rhythm, your brain would adapt. It would label it as background, but it doesn't. The movement feels random, unstructured. It appears, disappears, shifts, pauses. Scientifically, birds can become disoriented by artificial light or environmental disturbances, especially at night. But your brain doesn't process it that way. It tries to find structure where there isn't any, and when it fails, it keeps searching. Here's what most people don't realize. The absence of pattern feels more intentional than a predictable one. The third thing is proximity without visibility. You can hear it. You can sense it's close, but you can't see it. That gap between sound and sight is powerful. Humans are wired to confirm what they perceive. When you hear something but can't visually verify it, your brain fills in the blanks. It creates possibilities. Not because it's accurate, but because it needs closure. And that's when the experience starts to feel larger than it really is. And this is where it gets unsettling, because now it's not just a sound anymore. It's a presence you can't fully define. The fourth thing is how it interrupts your stillness. At night, your environment is quiet, stable, predictable, and then something moves through that space without warning. A flutter, a shift, a brief contact with something outside. That interruption stands out more than it would during the day. Your brain treats it like a signal. Something entered the space. Something changed. Even if it's harmless, your attention locks in. But that's not the real reason it feels so intense. The fifth thing is anticipation. After a few moments, you stop trying to sleep. You listen, you wait. You expect the next movement. And that expectation becomes part of the experience. Your brain isn't reacting anymore. It's predicting. And prediction creates tension. Because now, every second of silence feels like it's leading to something, even when nothing happens. This is where it gets interesting, because now, you're not just hearing it, you're following it. The sixth thing is how your body responds. You might stay completely still. Your breathing becomes slower, quieter. You don't move as much. That's your nervous system adapting to uncertainty. It's not panic. It's heightened awareness. Your body is conserving movement, focusing on perception. And the longer the unpredictability continues, the longer your body stays in that state. Here's what most people don't realize. Your body reacts to uncertainty before your mind understands it. The seventh thing is imagination filling the gaps. In the dark, your brain doesn't have enough visual input. So it starts constructing images based on sound and movement. You picture where the bird is, how it's moving, why it's not settling. And because the movement is inconsistent, the image keeps changing. This isn't irrational. It's your brain trying to create a complete picture from incomplete data. And that's when it starts to feel like more than it is. The eighth thing is duration. It doesn't stop immediately. It continues just long enough to stay in your awareness. Not constant, but recurring. That duration matters because your brain measures significance based on persistence. The longer something continues without explanation, the more important it feels, even if it's not. But that's not the most important part. The ninth thing is what happens after it's gone. Eventually, the movement stops. The The sound disappears. Everything goes quiet again. But your mind doesn't reset instantly. You stay aware. You keep listening. You wait for it to come back. And even when it doesn't, that state of alertness lingers, because your brain hasn't fully resolved what just happened. And this is where it gets deeper. Because now, it's not just about that moment. It's about how you experience the rest of the night. You're more aware, more sensitive to small changes, more focused on subtle sounds. The environment hasn't changed, but your perception has. And that shift stays with you longer than the event itself. But that's not the final realization. The final thing is that it was never really about the bird moving around your space. It was about what happens when something refuses to stay still long enough for your mind to understand it. When you can't locate it, when you can't predict it, when you can't fully explain it. Your brain doesn't ignore it. It holds onto it. It tracks it. It builds meaning around it. Not because it's dangerous, but because it doesn't fit into a clear pattern. And when something doesn't fit, your mind keeps working until it does, even if it never does. That's why it stayed with you. Because in that shifting, unpredictable movement, something changed. Not outside your window, but inside your awareness. You became more alert, more attentive, more aware of how quickly your mind reacts to the unknown. So the next time you hear something moving, not staying in one place, not following a rhythm, just appearing and disappearing in ways you can't fully track, don't ignore it too quickly. Not because it means something is out there, but because it reveals something about how your mind handles uncertainty. And once you notice that, you don't stop noticing it. If something like this has ever happened to you, where a small, shifting sound kept pulling your attention again and again, share it. Because the more you look at these moments, the more you realize it's not the movement that matters. It's what your mind does when it can't keep up with it.